The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv after a couple of shootings over the weekend where warm weather's coming and the shootings will be on the rise. Welcome to the Riv. So let's see how the COVID numbers are from Starfleet Admiral.
Okay, as of yesterday, we had 568,616 total cases, 1,508 new cases, 16,311 total deaths, 30 new deaths, and 57,177 in Bristol County. We don't have any Fall River numbers still. The mayor never published any last week. I guess he's too busy. Being mayor is a busy job. So we'll have to wait and see if we have to wait until Thursday to get numbers or what's going to happen.
He's too busy putting together that comprehensive list of all the great things he's done in the city that you alluded to in the flush. So all these delusions of grandeur that always take place during an election season. It's time. The election season will be coming shortly. The weather will break. Primaries will be on the horizon in a blink of an eye. And now it's time to pad to pad your resume. I did this and I did that, and I look forward to a bustling Pleasant Street, which is total delusion. I mean, look, let's get serious. Let's get serious here. We're going to look at a South Main Street and a Pleasant Street that harkens back to the 40s and 50s and 60s when we had everybody working somewhere in the mill or someplace. They all had paychecks, didn't make a lot of money, and everybody went shopping in their local neighborhoods. Then all of a sudden, those stores kind of dried up. The jobs were gone. You can't support those businesses. And secondly, people didn't go walking around shopping. Some people didn't even have cars in those days. And if they did, they only used them on weekends and for long trips. They stayed in their neighborhoods. And they also had jobs and money. But now, what happened? Then malls came about. And that put out a lot of stores because people just went to the shopping mall. It became part of the culture. Going to the mall, they made movies about kids hanging out in the malls. Now what do? They got something called online shopping, in case the mayor hasn't figured that out yet. Most people don't even leave their house. They do most of their shopping online. The kind of stores that existed on Pleasant Street and South Main Street no longer have any viability in most communities. And if you're going to look at foot traffic in places like Portland, Maine, as you and I discussed over the weekend, in Portland, Maine, or in Alexandria, Virginia, with both you and I have visited, which is a really nice little community right outside of Washington, D.C., where most people who go to Washington stay. They have a place called Old Town. Most of the hotels in Alexandria have free shuttles down to Old Town. And out there, you can walk, and there's Ben and Jerry's ice creams. It's kind of like being down at Cape in the summer. But those are the places that now have areas with high foot traffic and stores like that. You have to have a fundamental base of, they don't survive on locals. You don't see a lot of locals in Alexandria or Portland going down to the areas that they have that foot traffic. They're mostly tourists. There are a lot of tourists in Maine in the summer, cut from Canada and the entire Northeast. And there are tons of tourists and people on business in Washington, D.C. that support Alexandria. And this, again, brings us back to why we never succeed in anything. It's always half the story and pie in the sky. And we're going to do things that we know we can't do anymore. We're going to give everybody a walk down memory lane and say it's going to be like that again. Well, it's not, because the society and the culture has changed. You have to change the way Pleasant Street is. Yeah, you can support some businesses, but the first order of business to support businesses is to have customers with money. And that's one thing they never address.
Well, and what really is interesting is the mayor's heart, as you said, is harkening back to a time of old. All right. The majority of people in our society today don't remember downtown being a hustling and bustling community. Okay. The Gen Xers, there are very few Gen Xers which actually remember that period of time. And the seniors aren't there to support that type of business. As you notice, I was focusing a lot on trust on the weekend flush, and that's something we don't have. The people aren't trusting this mayor. The people aren't trusting this government. They're not trusting the city council, and they're definitely not trusting the school committee. And we need to have trust. For things to change in Fall River, that's what we have to have. You got to, the mayor touted that he got $1 million grant for the Flint to revitalize Pleasant Street. What are you going to do to revitalize Pleasant Street? You've got a bunch of buildings which haven't paid any taxes. And nobody's done anything about taking those buildings by tax title. What's the mayor thinking? They can't rent them because the taxes haven't been paid. They can't rehab them because the taxes haven't been paid. They can't do anything to them because the taxes haven't been paid. If these people aren't going to pay their taxes, take their buildings by tax title, then sell them off at market rate. You're so happy about market rate, Mr. Mayor, at market rate, not at $5,000. Okay? You put the figure on it that it's the taxes that are due, and that's it. End of story. And then let them redevelop it. You don't give your friends a $5,000, walk. That's not the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it always works in Fall River, and we always get screwed. Just look at the David Hebert properties. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, and the properties are still sitting there dilapidated. Nothing's happened to them. Granted, that was the previous administration. But remember, this is what happens when you deal with friends. Because remember, the mayor wants to bring his friends to the table and his banker friends, who we know who that is. So,
yeah. Well, look, bankers to talk about what? How we're going to use COVID money? That's federally mandated. There's going to be a lot of issues. The whole thing is crap. Look, lipstick on a pig syndrome again. Fall River is going to cure anything by putting a new facade on a building. Fact is, you've got to have people in the building with a business that's viable in order for that building to be to give anything to the economy. That's not going to happen, as we said. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have those stores anymore. What survives in Fall River? A dollar store, and there's already a whole bunch of them. The reality is we have people with no money. Somebody hasn't figured out yet that the average income in Fall River, household income, is actually below the poverty level. So the majority of people, we have, the last time I checked, and I will check it again, that we had almost 25%. We had 23 point something or other percent of people living below the poverty line and a whole bunch of people living at the poverty line. So this is not the kind of demographic that supports a lot of businesses. It's no mistake, and I've said this ad nauseum, it's no mistake that Newton has 10,000 more businesses, probably more than 10,000 now. The last time I checked, they had 10,000 more small businesses than Fall River. And they're actually smaller than Fall River by a couple thousand people. Why? Oh, really simple. The average income in Fall River is like $34,000 for a household. It's $165,000 in Newton. You got a lot of money to spend in those 10,000 extra stores. So that's what generates. But, it's always pie. You talked about trust in government, CJ. How can you trust government? We look at the federal level and on both sides. Pelosi and Feinstein have made hundreds of millions of dollars from China. Their husbands all have business interests in China. That's how China gets in. And on the GOP side, Mitch McConnell's wife just had 4 ships built for her company by China at a price tag of $47 million per ship. So, rounded off to 50. I'm sorry, 47 million. That's $200 million worth of ships that she just got given for her company. So you wonder why McConnell, the Democrats, still do not say that China is killing us, not only with this virus, but economically. They're the only country whose economy has grown. And now you look at Fall River, and the mayor basically gave the finger to the city council and to the taxpayers saying, I'm going to bring my banker friends. Well, I'll remind them that his banker friends are on the finance committee transition. And when I told them that this budget is not like the budgets they're used to, they didn't have another meeting. They don't want it. What do they know how to do? They know how to do what the federal government did, what Pelosi, Feinstein, and McConnell did. The bankers know how to make money from Fall River. Most of them don't live in Fall River. And the money they make has nothing to do with infusing Pleasant Street or South Main Street. It's got to do with infusing their businesses with capital. They don't do business on the streets of Fall River. They do businesses by building market rate housing and making investments and other things that does not help the average person in Fall River one iota. So it's campaign season. Put on your hip boots because the crap is coming, and it's going to be high tide. It's going to be high tide very shortly, just like this fiasco. And by the way, I'm going to give them a heads up. Please be prepared. I will be sending a letter to the council about this holiday that we're talking about, and I will break it down very clearly that this is another political campaign BS. We've given out numerous holidays. The employee trust fund is only employee money. They had no business talking about it in front of the city council because it's employee money. City council doesn't have any jurisdiction over that money. The use of that money is stipulated in Chapter 32B, Section 8A. There were no negotiations, as Mary Sahadi said, because you don't negotiate the use of that money. The use of that money is stipulated in 8A, and the way it's used is determined by the employees since it's their money based on a 50-year past practice under 150E, because we can only basically do 2 things with that money. We can leave it in the account, or we can use it to reduce premiums. Then that's it. That's what 8A says. So I'll give a holiday, and we give a holiday when it's fiscally prudent. The mayor wants to give away money that the city has because we haven't had medical bills. Well, those medical bills will ultimately come in. The reason we have extra money in both of our accounts is the fact that people are not going for elective surgeries. They're not going for cancer screenings. They haven't been going to the doctors on a regular basis because of COVID. So as COVID gets better, all these procedures will come back. So all that money that we got will ultimately be billed again, in addition to the normal services that you have during a year. That's the reason you keep that money until you determine how the things are. I'm not opposed to it, and I'll say it here on the air. I'm not opposed to giving a holiday. We like giving holidays around Christmas time, which is when we normally give them. But I'm not going to give that money away and then get hit with the bills because we can't tax and spend. So the city gets both ways. He makes a nice camp. Oh, look at you. It was my idea to give you guys a holiday. Another brilliant idea. Well, you gave us a holiday, and then when we get hit with those bills, we have to have money so we don't have to dip more deeply into the fund we have for emergencies. You guys spend it all. So you want to spend it, and then when those bills hit, you'll have Mary running down to the city council saying, oh, look, healthcare's costing too much. We got a ton of billing. Blue Cross now actually has a new factor for these new projections. They're using a COVID factor. They're attempting to actuarially figure out how these, what's going to happen. We have to make up with these medical procedures that were put on hold during COVID. They're not going to go away. If somebody needs a knee replacement, they're going to get a knee replacement at some point in time. If somebody needs a cancer screening, they're going to get a cancer screening. All these bills will come back. It is fiscally imprudent and ridiculous to just blow the money. This wasn't the lottery. We didn't hit the lottery. We got a positive spike because claims were virtually non-existent. That's why the rate change was 0% for 22. So this is all political crap, people. That's what we're saying. As CJ said in the thing, it's an election year. You can't trust anything they say because it's all going to be political rhetoric. And look around you and pay attention to what they're talking about. What they're doing, at least in the federal government, they get inventive. They come up with some new crap to throw at you. Down here, it's the same old stuff. We're gonna make Pleasant Street like it was in 1950. 55. We're gonna make South Main Street. What are you gonna do? Demolish the courthouse? That edifice, the incompetency that we allowed to be built on Main Street in Fall River? So, it's always the promises to go back to yesteryear. And I forgot what I forgot what author it is, and I should remember. But the author that said, you can't go home again. Those days are gone, long gone. Those walk around stores when people stayed in their neighborhoods began to lose their traction when they invented the automobile. Then they lost more traction when they invented shopping malls. Now that we have online shopping, they're a thing of the past. There are other things you have to do. Other things you have to do with these businesses and cities. And to use the same old hackneyed ideas during political time and promise a return to yesteryear is political BS, and don't believe it.
Hey, no argument for me. And by the way, You Can't Go Home Again was written by Thomas Wolfe.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that, but I just drew a blank.
I could tell. I could see it written across your forehead, but you just couldn't get the words out. It's see, we're an educational program too.
That's right. Yeah, even the quotes. We give a lot of quotes. We're like
that's right.
We're like the old what was it? That FBI show, the behavioral analysis unit, Criminal Minds. Remember, they used to start the show with a quote, and end the show with a quote that was appropriate. And you know me, I always end everything I give in front of the council with a quote, and every letter I do. But as we said, and as you said in your weekend flush, stop buying. Damn, how long are they going to use the same thing? How long are they going to promise to develop the waterfront? Get in a time machine and go back to 1950 on Pleasant Street and Main Street. Well, just take a look at Main Street. In 1950, did we have a courthouse planted in the middle of South Main Street?
No, we didn't.
Wake up, people. It's bad enough when they come up with some new. Hey, I got to give Jaisley. You talked about our former mayor. I got to give him credit. he came up with some new stuff. Remember the park we were going to have in the parking deck? We were going to have like we were going to have grass and stuff on a parking deck. He came up with a whole bunch of new and innovative ideas, which never came to reality, but at least they were new. I mean, These guys are pathetic. He's going to go meet with his old banker buddies, most of whom will live out of town, tell the taxpayers and the city council, screw you. I want to have people around the table who are my buddies are going to tell me what I want to hear, and my banker buddies who are going to all make money out of the deal and listen to their ideas. To hell with the people of Fall River and the city council. So, good luck with that. If you guys want to buy it, it's your prerogative.
Well, going back to days of old, for some people, it may be nice. I mean, we know that the seniors may like that. We know that, and I'm not talking about the new seniors. I'm talking the older seniors that have been around for some time. They may like that because that was a time for them, which was a happy time. And that's what they want. They want the happy times. But when they started building apartments on South Main Street out of old buildings, like the Academy building, they lost the ability to have a bustling downtown. Communities across the country have lost the ability to have bustling downtowns. What makes Fall River any special to get them to have a bustling downtown? We're not Boston, and even Boston's bustling downtown isn't all businesses. It's businesses, but it's office businesses, it's lawyers, it's financiers, it's stockbrokers. That's what keeps them busy. That's what keeps those downtowns busy. Plus, Boston has Faneuil Hall, and they have various attractions like the Museum of Science, the New England Aquarium, the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides. These are things that bring them in because Boston is a tourist destination. Fall River isn't a tourist destination. Fall River is a pass-through destination. They pass through to get to Newport. They pass through to get to Cape Cod. They don't stop here because we have nothing to offer. And what the mayor is offering is nothing for these people to stop here and say, oh, look, I stopped in Fall River, so I could go here, or I could go there. And building market rate housing on the waterfront is not developing the waterfront for the usage that the people wanted. Putting market rate housing on the waterfront puts your friends, Mr. Mayor, in a position, a bargaining position. Your position, Mr. Mayor, is to put market rate housing all over downtown, which will make sure that it isn't a bustling community. Put market rate housing all over the city and make sure that the poor is gotten out of the city, that the middle class people are gotten out of the city. You want to gentrify Fall River so nobody can afford to live here except people like you who make over $200,000 a year on the taxpayer dime. On the taxpayer dime. We need a representation that represents the people, not that represents the bankers and represents the developers, not the people that represent your friends. You represent your friends. You have made it clear in your State of the City address that you do not represent the people. And you can say all you want that we've lost sight of it. We've gotten into mistrust and hate, and you don't want to see the city go into that. Well, Mr. Mayor, stop giving us a reason to mistrust you. Stop giving us a reason to mistrust you. Be upfront with people. Be honest. Don't play any games because it's not worth the aggravation. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the money. And you have to be on top of it because guess what? Anyone but Coogan is coming around. It's getting out there more and more. I just saw a poll on Facebook that said, do you think the mayor's doing a good job or something along that lines? And it was, no. Do you think he'll be a one-term mayor? That's what it was. Do you think Mayor Coogan will be a one-term mayor? Out of 90, out of 75 votes, 61 people said he's going to be a one-term mayor. That starts to speak volumes, Mr. Mayor. Start speaking volumes. And it may be too late for you to turn this around.
Well, CJ, this is the problem. Look, nobody's saying it's easy. We're not sitting here, and we've been talking about this for a long time. We've given some ideas about training people like they did in Rhode Island to be welders and to give them some working, creating apprenticeship programs with companies to try to get people employed. It's about having people work. The reality is it is a proven fact you can't tax and spend your way to prosperity. We're talking about these things about walking traffic. There are no areas that have walking traffic that are not tourist areas. You look at Portland, Maine. Maine is loaded with tourists in the summer and a lot in the winter with skiing, but it's not as much. So you look at what they did to Portland, Maine. Okay, you look at Alexandria, Virginia. You look at their anchor, Washington, D.C. But then again, I'm going to give you a really classic example of Chicago. Now, Chicago is an extremely diverse and large city. And obviously they have their problems on the south side, but they also have a lot of foot traffic down there to Navy Pier and on the $1 Million Mile. But a lot of people, if you've never been to Chicago, and I don't know if you have, CJ.
Yes, I have.
If you go to downtown Chicago, after 5 o'clock, that place is virtually empty. There's nothing there except office buildings. I mean, there's a underground shopping mall, it used to be, but there's nothing. You walk out down the streets of Chicago, you walk 8 blocks before you can find anything that you can walk into, maybe a drugstore or something like that, because there's basically nobody living there. They live outside of the downtown area. They have neighborhoods. They have a lot of Eastern European neighborhoods, but they have a Greek town, a Chinatown, a whole bunch of diverse things in Chicago. They got the $1 Million Mile, but those things are really not supported. If you go to the $1 Million Mile and look at all those high-end shops, the Gucci's and the Armani's and all the other shops that are on the $1 Million Mile, you don't see Chicagoans walking down that street unless they work there. They all have neighborhoods, viable neighborhoods with people who work and who have money and paychecks. And they are within those neighborhoods. Do they have stores and stuff? Because these people fundamentally stay in their neighborhood. And if they want to go to, outside, they can go to the, other areas. But it's a different dynamic now. And I'm not claiming that I know everything about it, but I've been to a lot of cities and I pay attention to this stuff. It's changed. This is no longer 1950. People don't walk up to Pleasant Street to go to Shalmore Furniture and Strand Theater. You didn't stay in those days, you stayed basically in your neighborhood 98% of the time. So these kinds of neighborhoods had malls. Now we've got online shopping. There's a way to cultivate this. You'd think you'd go and pay attention to this, but no. At political season, it is, again, the season of the same old promises. And that's why this city's not going to turn around. That's why people are not happy. They've seen no attempt to get us out of the 1950s. And you can say what you want about Jazel. I remember the first time he ran, he had charts and all kinds of new ideas. Most of them never happened, but at least we saw some new ideas. So, my thing is, when you look at this campaign season, look for candidates that are going to protect the taxpayer and look for real solutions to our problems, not the same old, same old.
Well, and always remember, you can always live by Paul Coogan's mantra. If you're not happy, leave. If you're not happy, leave.
Go to Russia.
That's Malone's motto.
I know.
If you're not happy, go to Russia. But if you're not happy, leave. And he said it numerous times. He said it when he was a vice principal. He said it to people on particular boards. So guess what? If you're not happy, leave. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. It's been a great show. We had some different technical difficulties that you don't need to know about, but thanks for watching. Have a great day. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and wear a mask. Have a good one. Thank you.